Well, greetings and salutations, one and all, to another fun for the episode of the Super Review Show's Mixed Bag, coming to you live once again from many caves. As always, I'm joined by the incredible Starfield panel minus one of the Super Review Show's Mixed Bag, Bill and Justin. What's going on, guys?
Hey, what's going on, folks?
What's up?
Guys, as you
What?
can see, it's a sausage fest.
Had to
Oh,
put it
Lord.
out there, didn't you? Anyways, I digress.
That's what she said.
Just a reminder, everyone, that we the best podcast out there. Right? We haven't done it in a little bit. We are the best podcast.
We are the best podcast.
Thank you, DJ Khaled. Bill and Justin were discussing about what topic we should do tonight, and Bill came up with this. What do you got, bud?
Okay, as the old saying goes, art imitates life. Am I right, Justin?
Yes.
But there have been times when life imitates art. That made no sense, did it?
It did. You're good.
But tonight we're going to talk about movies that were affected by real life events. And what I mean is movies that had to be edited, postponed,
Yeah.
or due to certain events, whether they be tragic events in world news or whatever. So, anyway, enough dilly-dallying. Justin, my dear friend, would you like to start off first?
Okay, so I actually packaged some of these movies based on said events.
Okay.
And the first event I kind of want to talk about is the 2014 Sony hack.
Okay.
So, for those of you who don't exactly know what happened here, back in 2014, tensions between the US and North Korea were very high. And this was especially so because of a certain movie coming out by Seth Rogen and James Franco, known as The Interview, which was about an assassination attempt on the life of North Korean Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un. Obviously, North Korea did not take this well and said if the U.S. released this movie, there would be dire consequences. Well, I think maybe a month or so before the movie was supposed to be released, Sony Pictures gets hacked. It was a huge hack. It revealed a bunch of emails from the Sony head honchos, and I'm pretty sure they traced the hack to North Korea. And they said that if they go forward and release the movie, it's going to be a whole lot worse than just Sony. So Sony Pictures pulled The Interview from theatrical distribution in retaliation to what happened. They instead decided to release it on streaming, which, from what I understand, the streaming numbers were very high, but it never did get that theatrical release. Even Obama commented on this when this came out.
Did you like it?
They said that Sony Pictures made a mistake and they should have released the movie in theaters. But one thing that did come out of it that it's kind of a positive is how this affected the MCU. Now I know what you're thinking. How could this have ever affected the MCU?
Yeah, how could this ever affected the MCU?
Well, I'm glad you asked that though,
Oh
because
God, you're putting the hat on right now, aren't you?
what hat? I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Marvel comic book professor hat that I got you for your birthday.
Listen, all I'm saying is you gotta be careful with your gifts because they might come back to bite you in the ass.
Oh no. All right, Professor, let's hear it.
So back in 2014, that was also the year that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out and underperformed. And when the Sony hack happened, there were a lot of emails that were explaining their plans for the Spider-Man IP that they wanted to do. Get this, an Aunt May movie,
How do you think that would have been?
probably about as good as the Madam Web movie.
I haven't even seen it, and it sounds terrible from what you told me.
It's laughably bad.
It's that laughably bad.
It's one of those special bad movies.
Oh boy. Continue.
Anyways, they were gonna do a Madam. Well, they did Madam Web. They were gonna do an Aunt May movie. They were gonna do a Sinister Six movie. It was sort of going over why they haven't done a female superhero movies because they were reiterating the fact that they pointed out Supergirl and Catwoman as the reasons why they don't do female superhero movies, which was bullshit because we all saw what happened with Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel. And that just made Sony look really incompetent regarding the Spider-Man IP. So they were pushed into a very precarious situation where the only way they can really recover is by sharing the IP with Disney and Marvel Studios, therefore bringing Spider-Man into the MCU, therefore in Captain America, Avengers Infinity War, Spider-Man Homecoming, Avengers Endgame, Far From Home, No Way Home, potentially Avengers 5 and Secret Wars, with the new news that the Russo brothers are now in active talks to direct those movies. So it brought Spider-Man home somewhat
To MCU.
to the MCU. Something that was unthinkable in 2014 prior to the hack.
So something came good out of this, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I will take 10 Venoms, Morbius's, Madam Webs if it means getting an Avengers Endgame, Infinity War, and No Way Home out of it.
You know, at the end of the day, the best thing happened. We got
Yeah.
we got good we got the MCU producing good movies.
Now let's see if they can get back to that.
Hey, we'll cover that. We were covering that a couple weeks ago, but yeah, we were covering that a couple weeks ago, but then Mother Nature had something to say about it. So
Yeah, apparently I upset somebody about that.
you know
And they
what? Maybe
cut
we'll
off
do
all
that
the
next.
cap.
Maybe since Deadpool and Wolverine's coming out next week, maybe we'll do that.
Maybe.
We'll get a mulligan. Okay, So, is it my turn? Okay, JT had to take a call. He'll be back in a second. So, we're going to do this without the screen. Justin, have you ever heard of this very bad movie from 2012 called The Watch?
Oh, I was reading about this earlier.
Oh, you didn't know about this, did you? Well, guess what?
I
I'm
think I
putting my
forgot about
professor
it.
hat on.
Oh gosh. Why did I get you that for your birthday?
Well, maybe like you said, yeah, we got each other professor hats for our birthdays. And so anyway, the movie The Watch,
Hmm.
it was actually supposed to be called Neighborhood Watch.
And oh god.
If but I remember this from the trailer. Ben Stiller's character is at like a high school football game, and they're
Hmm.
like, "A murder was committed here tonight," and everyone's like, "Oh my god!" He goes, "Don't worry, peace." Just as a little bit of a joke here, Justin, would you feel confident that Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn, and Jonah Hill are on the case? Be honest. Would you feel comfortable with them being on the case?
I mean, Vince Vaughn was in True Detective, so maybe.
Okay, what about Ben Stiller and Jonah Hill?
Well, probably not Jonah Hill. I'll say that much.
Because didn't it come out recently that he's an abusive asshole?
Yeah, I heard he's not nice.
I thought he was such a nice guy, and then this crap happened. What a word I can't say on air. But anyway, it was actually supposed to be about aliens, and the movie's about aliens and something. So the movie was originally called Neighborhood Watch. But then
Something
in
happened in Florida.
God damn it, Florida. Um on February 29th, 2012, young boy, how old was he? 16 or 17?
I think he was 17.
17-year-old Trayvon Martin was killed by. Hey, JT, we'll talk about the movie The Watch. Okay.
Oh
Unfortunately,
yeah, and the guy from the IT crowd.
yeah, so they were all in this. So unfortunately, on February 29th, 2012, Trayvon Martin was killed by neighborhood watchman George Zimmerman.
Yeah.
And so because of that, they dropped the name neighborhood and just went with The Watch. It's about Ben Still. His friend was killed, so he forms a neighborhood watch to
Yeah.
track this guy down, but then it has something to do with aliens. Justin, do you think them changing it from the neighborhood watch to the watch was a smart choice, or do you think okay they went a little overboard?
I think this was a little bit of I think they were playing a little too safe because here's the thing. It's still called Neighborhood Watch in the movie. There's still a neighborhood watch in the movie. It's just
And like, here's the thing: like, listen, what happened to Trayvon Martin was an absolute tragedy.
Mhm.
And that was absolutely terrible. George Zimmerman should have been convicted and he should have been thrown in prison. But I think because the two events are not the event and the movie, it's not connected.
Yeah.
It's not connected. I think they went a little overboard. Because there was like no attacks on neighborhood watches after that happened.
Yeah.
Like I see what they were. I think the studio. I think they had good intentions.
but it was an overreaction.
I think they overthought it a little bit. Now, like if there was a scene of a young person of color getting killed in the movie, then yes, I would say, yeah, take that out. That is not appropriate to be shown right now. That's
Yes.
bad. Take it out. But I think, okay, what studio did this again?
Um, can't remember.
Okay, I'm gonna look this for, and the film didn't do that great either, by the way.
Oh, 20th Century Fox. Okay.
20th Century Fox before they were owned by the Mouse.
Oh,
But I think 20th Century Fox just overthought it.
yeah.
I think they had the best intentions, but I think this was unnecessary. Let's get to someone else's opinion. JT, talk to us.
I haven't seen this movie.
But did you hear what I just explained of why this
Yes.
movie? Do you think 20th Century Fox kind of overreacted, or do you think changing it was kind of justified?
Oh, I think changing was justified. That's just me.
Really? How so?
I don't know. I don't know, bud. I don't know. I forgot offhand. Sorry. Sorry. Forgive me, guys. I'm behind the scenes here. I'm a little bit busy tonight. Forgive me. So
Yeah, he's a bit of a busy lad tonight.
I've
Uh,
been very busy outside of doing this for a long time. Yeah. Forgive me, guys.
so yeah, so Justin and I have to do the heavy lifting tonight. Um, don't we, Justin?
Mm.
With our professor hats on. But anyway, but no, I think 20th Century Fox, end of the day, I think they had good intentions, but again, I haven't really seen the movie. Just from what I heard of it, it's not like they really changed anything.
Yeah.
And like you said, in the movie, they still call it the Neighborhood Watch. So I think this was a useless change. And again, 20th Century Fox had good intentions, but I think they just overthought it. Okay, just JT, you want to go next or go back to Justin?
Justin, take it away.
Okay, so let's stick to 2012 for a little bit.
Do we have to? Not go ahead.
Yeah.
That was good.
So
Yeah.
let me paint a picture for you all. Um, it's the summer,
Hmm.
and The Dark Knight Rises just came out, opening night.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Go on.
And attached to the movie is a trailer for a movie called Gangster Squad. And this bold, risky set piece takes place where the gangsters are behind the movie theater screen and start shooting at the crowd. And then everyone goes home and they find out about the news in Aurora, Colorado, where at a screening of The Dark Knight Rises, um, uh, a man named James Holmes opened fire on a crowd, killed multiple people, and well, considering that Gangster Squad's trailer premiered in the Dark Knight Rises movie, and the nature of that set piece just let a horrible taste in everyone's mouth. So they removed the trailer. They reshot the ending because that was building up to the ending. That scene apparently, and delayed the movie. I wouldn't be Googling that movie, JT. I'd be Googling Gangster Squad. Like I remember seeing this trailer in theaters and being like, "Whoa, that's I can't believe they're getting away with that scene." And after that,
And this was
after
before we found out what happened.
yeah, because it literally happened that night that this trailer premiered. Um,
I was with
you
you, actually.
yeah, we saw this together. And what was your reaction to that moment in the trailer when you first saw it? Not after,
May I be honest?
not taking into account what happened in Aurora.
I barely remember watching. Like, I remember seeing the trailer, but I barely remember that scene. But no, wait, I think I do remember that scene where they shot the theater. I just thought, like, okay, looks like another shoot 'em up gangster film. I didn't really think much of it. But then it went to my attention more when the terrible news with the shooting,
Mm-hmm.
and when they were saying like, oh, the movie Gangster Squad's going to get postponed due to because they had to. Because then when I eventually, because I remember the film was supposed to be released, I think in October of 2012,
Yeah,
and it got pushed back to January 2013. And I thought like, oh, it was probably just out of respect for those who died in Aurora. But then I found out that they had to reshoot, that they had to take out that scene and reshoot them and do some rewrites and reshoots.
yeah. And when that happens, it's usually makes for a messier movie. Which, if I remember correctly, this movie was not well received.
I think it got like mixed reviews. I liked
Yeah,
it, but
I liked it fine. I don't remember it much.
I remember the but at the end of the day, I think they made the right decision.
Oh, absolutely. Like that, you can't get away with a scene like that anymore.
Because after the you know unlike with the watch, uh that movie actually had a scene. This movie actually had a scene that, as they say, art imitates life.
Yeah.
So I can totally agree with you, Justin. This needed to, I think this was good to, I think they did the right thing
Yeah.
because do you think they aired this movie in Aurora or
Um, I think after they got rid of the scene, they were more receptive to the movie. Because I know that they didn't air Joker in Aurora.
yes, because I think there were threats that they weren't gonna that somebody was gonna do something to the theater if they showed it or something or
I think it was more because it just opens up a bad wound.
and like listen, because there were some theaters that, they had credible threats because of that movie. But at the end of the day, I think Aurora was one of the only ones that was justified to say we're not going to show it. What do you think?
Yeah. Like, if you ask me, like, that movie, I get it. It opens up a really nasty wound because the guy who went out to do the terrible, terrible thing,
And said he was
um,
the Joker.
yeah, he did claim to be the Joker when captured by police.
And with the Joker thing, on the other hand, though, if the movie's going to upset you, then you have the right to not see it.
Yes.
So I don't know which argument thing is stronger. Like, okay, we're not going to show it out of respect for those who we died, or we're going to show it if you don't want to see it, then don't see it.
Like you said, Aurora, I think gets a pass on it because of
I
what
agree.
everyone else. I think it's, if you don't want to see it, don't watch it sort of situation.
Because no,
Like
you're right. I
you
think
can't.
Aurora had the right thing in mind. They're like, listen, this might open up an old wound, might reopen old wounds. There
Yeah,
are people in this because Aurora's not a big city.
no.
It's a small community. There are people who live here who lost friends and family members to that shooting. So we don't want to reopen old wounds.
Yeah.
So we're just out of respect for those who we lost and to their families, we will not show it. Like I think they can get a pass. And like Gangster Squad, at the end of the day, I think they did the right thing because
Yeah.
this was something that actually happened. I'm sorry comparing it to The Watch for a second because The Watch, I can understand why you changed the title, but nothing in the movie had anything to do with what happened to Trayvon Martin.
Yes.
That had nothing to do with anything. This something like that actually happened.
The night the trailer premiered.
The night the trailer premiered. So the night the trailer premiered. So yeah, I think Gangster Squad I think they did the right thing.
It's kind of a shame though, because this movie is more known for what it didn't have in the movie than what it does.
They actually asked Josh Brolin, and I just looked this up actually.
Yeah.
They said, "Are you upset that you guys had to edit it out?" And they said, "Nah, because what we put in the movie was actually even more violent than that scene." I don't know if that makes everything better, worse. What do you think?
Uh no. It doesn't really affect much, I don't think. Okay, so I yield. Bill, sir, on to you.
Okay, Justin. Where we talked about more modern stuff. I'm gonna go back into some. We're gonna go up your alley for a second, Justin, if you don't mind. Film
Okay.
history.
Bum 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 bum.
Um, okay. The year is 1963/4.
I think we were talking about this earlier today.
Stanley Kubrick is about to release a film called Doctor Strangelove. Justin, have you ever seen Doctor Strangelove?
I have.
Gentlemen, you can't fight here.
It's the war room.
Doesn't that not? Don't you want to be fighting in the war room?
That's the joke.
But anyway, gentlemen, you can't fight here. This is the war room. Okay, there is a scene. There is one scene that when somebody says, "Ooh, a fella could do good with this with a weekend in Vegas." Justin, do you know what the original line was?
No.
The original line was, "A fella could do good with this with a weekend in Dallas."
Uh-oh.
So why is that a big deal? Guess what's coming on, Justin? And my monocle. This film,
Why did I get you that monocle for Christmas?
I don't know. Why did you? But anyway, this film was actually supposed to open up in previews on November 22nd, 1963. And for those of you who don't know your American history, President John F.
That's fine.
Kennedy was shot and killed in Dallas on that day. And you know what? Before I go on, I just want to continue. I know Justin and I have been making jokes, but we are not making jokes about the tragic events that caused these, that caused, we are not making light of the tragic events that caused these movies to be edited or rescheduled or anything. Correct, Justin?
Correct.
We are not making fun of the events. We understand that the events, that a lot of these events are tragic. And we just want to say we are not making fun of them or trying to make light of them. We're just, yeah, okay. But anyway, so that happened, and then November, and then on the same in the same film, there was a scene where there was a pie fight breaking out.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with this one.
All right, where am I going with this one?
So there's a line at the end of the pie fight where the president gets hit with a pie and someone yells, "The president has been shot down in his prime."
Yeah, I think they say our young president has been struck down.
In his prime.
And, you know, because JFK was, guess what? Young
Like,
and in his
in
prime.
his prime.
So anyway, because of that, one, the previews got postponed, and they had to they took out the pie site fight, and they changed that line, the weekend in Dallas to a weekend in Vegas. You know what? This was justified.
Yeah. Although the pie fight I heard was taken out for a different reason than that line, even though I think the line kind of had something to do with it.
Oh, what was the reason?
Because they only had one take and the actors ruined it. They were
Wasn't it because it was
laughing the
too
whole
funny,
time.
or
What? No, they
wasn't
were
it because
laughing the whole time. They were supposed to be fighting straight face and they were laughing the whole time, and Kubrick hated it.
so? Yeah, I think at the end of the, so it was taken out. So what you're telling me is, Justin, the pie fight was taken out for a different reason, but given what happened, like was the scene already taken out before they were going to show it in previews? You think, or
I think so. I'm pretty sure that Kubrick decided when he saw the dailies of that pie fight that he wasn't going to use it.
and and so do you think it was just one of those kill two birds with one stone?
Yeah,
It was one of those. Okay, good thing we took that out anyway. It's a good thing we so it. You think Cooper was just thinking, okay, you know what? It's a good thing we took it out anyway.
yeah,
So overall, I think Kubrick made the right decision.
yes,
I think Kubrick made the right choice, and because Dallas, what just happened, and a young president being struck down in his prime. Okay, Justin, over to you.
All right. The year 2001.
Oh, I think I know where this is going. Is it where
We
I think it's going?
we see a helicopter with a few criminals trying to escape the police, and all of a sudden, they're caught in a giant web in between the Twin Towers. This was the teaser for Spider-Man, Sam Raimi's 2002 film that had to take out the scene because what happened, on September the 11th of 2001 when a group of terrorists hijacked planes and crashed them into the Twin Towers, demolishing them and taking the lives of thousands. When that happened, they could not use that scene.
Was the scene supposed to be in the movie or no?
It was, and I can pinpoint where it was supposed to be. When the montage was going on where everyone was talking about what they thought about Spider-Man, and when you finally see the shot of Spider-Man in the mask and it zooms out from his eye, if you look closely enough, yep, there it is. You can see in the reflection of his visors the Twin Towers. See him?
Yep.
That's where I think that scene was.
Oh, the montage with everybody. And of course, my personal favorite guy in that one. He stinks and I don't like him. Hey, at least he's honest. So I'll give him points for honesty. What do you think, Justin? What do you think of that guy?
He was probably the most memorable of them too, although some kind of super freak wackadoo. That guy's fun too. Listen, all the New Yorkers in that movie are fun. Also, because of the events, Sam Raimi went a little overboard on the New York Strong stuff.
Hey, you leave Spider-Man alone. You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
You mess with New York. You mess with him, you mess with all of us.
What's wrong with New York Strong?
Come on. It was a little cheesy.
Well, dude, it was right after 9/11. People were showing, even today with well, not today, but a couple years ago when we brought back that whole New York Strong during COVID. But okay, what about what Cena?
And it wasn't just the first Spider-Man, because it had Spider-Man at the ending montage jumping on the American flag, which they repeated in the next two films, becoming
I don't
more.
remember it in two. I remember it in Spider-Man 3, but I don't remember it in Spider-Man 2.
Okay, maybe I'm just attributing Spider-Man 2 to that whole thing, but still, it was egregious in Spider-Man 3.
Why was it egregious? I don't think it was anything necessarily bad.
It just felt forced, okay?
Like, could you excuse the first one?
The first one, sure.
It was right after 9/11, because for those of you who are younger than us, post 9/11, the world post 9/11, how would you describe it, Justin?
It's a lot more paranoid, but there was a interesting sense of unity amongst Americans that you don't get very often anymore.
And especially in today's world, we're just so divided.
Yeah.
George Carlin in his last special actually had this line, goes, I like it when it doesn't take an effing catastrophe for us to care about one another.
Yeah.
Or was it catastrophe? Or I think it was tragedy.
One of the two, but either
where
way.
It doesn't take a tragedy to have us effing care about one another. But But yeah, but you know what? Here's how the post 9/11 you put an American flag, how do the post 9/11 crowd react?
USA, USA.
All back in those films, back in those days after 9/11, and listen, I am not making fun of what happened that day. It was an absolute tragedy. It was the darkest day in our history. But all you had to do was put an American flag at the end of the movie, and the audience would be standing up and clapping.
Yeah.
That's all you had. And this was no different. But you know what? I wonder, do you think that scene was already planned, or do you think they put that in right after 9/11?
It's hard to tell. You're talking about the you mess with Spider-Man, you mess with New York bit.
No, the American flag.
Oh, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Because were they in production when 9/11 happened?
They're in post production. Like they were editing that movie. Like they had a trailer out and everything.
So probably the New Yorkers thing was probably already in there.
Unless that was a result of reshoots.
So that scene with the Twin Towers, that was probably taken out like right after.
And they probably had to digitally erase the Twin Towers from a bunch of shots.
And like even any poster that had the Twin Towers and Spider-Man's eye, they just took them away.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I think this is a no-brainer. I'm going to say this was justified 100%.
Very justified. Otherwise, it turned it into a period piece.
Well, I don't think it's just about it being a
bad.
period.
I apologize for that one.
I don't think this is about it being a period piece. I think this is about,
Yeah, no,
if they left the
respect.
Twin Towers in there, I think it's kind of disrespectful to the thousands of people who died that day.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I also feel at the same time, like, like there was a scene in Home Alone 2 in which Kevin's at the World Trade Center, and they have since took that scene out in future viewings. Like, I'm sorry, this brings up an interesting conversation. Do you think movies that have the World Trade Center in it, do you think they should just take the scenes out,
No,
or
because I think it depends on when it was coming out. If it was like a movie that was coming out in 2001, they had to delay it and all that, then yes. But if it's a movie that came out years ago when the Twin Towers were a thing, I think they should stay there because it's part of our history. Those towers was part of our New York skyline for 20 something odd years.
whilst we're on the topic of 9/11, you know what movie I'm actually thinking of that was some say it was affected by real life, but I'm not 100% sure.
What?
Gangs of New York.
That was actually part of my 9/11 spiel.
Out of respect for the thousands of people who died that day, I'm not going to say the joke. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
What we usually say when we say the same thing. Out of respect for the thousands of people who died that day, I'm not going to say that joke. Not that it has anything to do with this. It's just that I don't want to reduce the greatest tragedy in American history, in our lifetime, to a cheap punchline. So, but anyway, Gangs of New York.
And I was
And
wrong about.
but nobody really knows if 9/11 had anything to do with it. Because
I
that's
mean, it influenced that scene definitely because you could see the ghost of the towers there in that last shot. So I think he was definitely influenced by the events of 9/11 to include that scene.
because it was supposed to come out in December 2001, 3 months after the attacks. But the film was, it was nearly, but then it was delayed because I think Miramax put out a statement saying, well, we just don't think it's appropriate showing a violent movie that took place in New York. That takes place in New York. We don't really think it's appropriate to show that, right? To release that at this time. But then Marty Scorsese, they asked him, so did 9/11 had something to do with it? And then he said, no, it wasn't done. Because they said they were still filming pick-me-ups. They were still filming scenes in like 2000, in like months before it was going to be re-released, before it was going to be released in.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The official justification, Miramax said, because of 9/11.
Yeah, but you can't.
Gangs of New York, by the way. Gangs of New York.
Yeah, but you can't take everything that the Weinsteins say as truth, given their
Track record.
yeah.
And that's putting it kindly. But I don't know. But you know, if we were just good for the sake of argument, let's go with Miramax's original statement, okay?
Okay.
And they say we don't think it's appropriate to right now release a violent movie that takes place in New York regarding what just happened. Would you say justify or
I
like,
don't
oh
think
come
that's
on?
going to justify, considering that this is a period piece um of events that could have happened in late 1800s, early 1900s New York. I think I don't think that this was justified.
Um, I'm gonna say I'm gonna agree with you, but there is one scene I think they should have taken out.
Which one?
It was at the end when they show when Leonardo DiCaprio's character goes, "It's like we weren't even here," and the U2 song "The Hands That Built America" were playing,
Mm-hmm.
and they show the New York skyline and eventually show the World Trade Center. Do you think like, okay, hey, you know what happened last year, right? Was that maybe should we not be showing that?
Um, if it came out as it, I don't think that scene would have existed if it wasn't for 9/11. I'll be honest.
So this is why you think Gangs of New York wasn't delayed because of 9/11.
Um, I think it would have been delayed regardless, but they added that scene because of 9/11.
Well, because it was part of the New York skyline for many, 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 many years.
Yeah.
So I can kind of give it a pass because nothing in the movie had anything to do with the World Trade Center.
Yeah. Because it
Because
wouldn't
it's,
be built for another like 100 years.
but I think But yeah, I don't think that was justified. I think they just weren't done yet. Because do we trust anything the Weinstein say?
No.
But yeah, so Gangs of New York may or may have not been affected by 9/11. The Weinstein said we don't think it's appropriate right now to have a violent movie take place in New York to be released right now. But Marty Scorsese goes, we just weren't done yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The jury's out on that one. All right, Justin, you got anything next?
The only other thing I can mention is there's one scene from Lilo and Stitch,
Oh, yes.
the airplane scene that got changed to a space shuttle.
Oh, yes, that is true.
Again, because of 9/11.
If you grew up with media after 9/11, anything that had to do with planes or bombs or anything,
Yeah.
were immediately released.
Back in 2021. Sorry, I'm back. Back in 2021, Bill and I actually did an episode of our podcast called Media Affected by 9/11, and we talked about this stuff heavily. So if you want to go and check out that with us, go
Please do.
way back in our podcast feed. It's somewhere called Media Affected by 9/11. Check it out.
It was interesting. Okay. Justin, are you ready for my? You want to make these the last? Do you got any more? Do you want to make these the last of the night?
That was my last one.
Okay. I'm going to go back to, okay, I'm going to talk about two films that were affected by the same event. And that was a film called, I don't know if you heard of it, Justin, Teaching Mrs. Teagle.
I have not.
What was that, Justin?
I have not.
Okay. One, it didn't really do that good. So, oh, Mrs. Tingle. I'm sorry. Teaching Mrs. Tingle.
Still haven't heard of it.
The film was actually okay. The film is about a young lady who is about to become valedictorian. But then there's a teacher named Mrs. Tingle who doesn't like her. And Mrs. Tingle threatens to expel her over something. And but here's, I'll just get to the point. This film was supposed to be called Killing Mrs. Tingle.
Hey.
And the reason why this movie got, and the movie was supposed to be much darker and violent. But, okay, the release date was August 20th, 1999. The movie was supposed to be released. Well, here's what happened. The movie got axed. No, there had to be changes. They had to take out the violent scene, and especially changing the title because this happened 4 months after the Columbine High School massacre. In which Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold came in and shot 20 classmates, 19 classmates, one teacher, and then eventually turning the guns on themselves. The film had to be re-edited, so they changed it to Teaching Mrs. Tingle. And they removed a lot of the violent scenes.
Yeah.
Like, if you remember what we just talked about with 9/11, the same thing happened with after Columbine. And, Justin and I and JT can't really speak to that matter because we were very, very young when it happened. And we don't really have any memory of it happening.
Yeah.
But what they did with 9/11, like after 9/11, they took out anything that had to do with bombs or planes. They did the same thing after Columbine. They took out anything that had to do with guns or school violence.
Yeah.
Like they did a total crackdown on violence, especially shows that were targeted towards younger kids. But yeah, I
With
think
the
the change.
occasional very special episodes sprinkled in.
Yeah, because you know what? Because and this is kind of there was a Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode. This is not the other thing, but there was a Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode called Earshot in which Buffy overhears someone saying that he's gonna do something to the school, and that episode was actually supposed to air the week after the shooting. So, of course, WB said, yeah, we're not going to show it right now. And they re-showed it months later. And they showed it months later.
Yeah.
But, because here's what I say about, like, the crackdown on violence. I understand with... Okay, let me get to the other movie we're going to talk about then before I go on my spiel. Scream 3. And which was Teaching Mrs. Tingle, that was directed by Kevin Williamson. Kevin Williamson was also a producer on Scream 3. So he got the. So apparently what happened was because there was a scene where Ghostface were gonna attack high school students and then targeting Cindy.
Mm-hmm.
That was going to be the original plot of Scream 3, in which Stu, who was one of the characters that was in the film, was going to come and kill high school students and target Sydney. But after Columbine happened, they scrapped it and they rewrote the script. So, Justin, you think that was justified?
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, it is horror, slasher horror with teenagers. Like, it's kind of expected that teenagers are gonna die, but at the same time, I kind of get why they changed it because the timing was just not good.
And here's my thing on crackdown and violence. I think right after Columbine, it was justified. But you know what? I'm going to say this. Every time we hear terrible tragedies happening, I'm sorry, Justin, I got to get on my soapbox for a minute. Every time we hear terrible tragedies happening, we always hear, oh, maybe it was violent video games. Maybe it was heavy metal music. Maybe it was this. Maybe it was that. Okay, can we stop the blaming and actually get some things done to prevent these shootings, please? Can we actually get something done, please?
Yeah.
Instead of pointing the blame game, because here's what I've always said, Justin. You've heard me say this before. If someone who has no issues is going to watch a violent movie, they're not going to want to do anything violent afterwards. But if someone who's a little not right in the head, is going to do something, it's not the movie's fault. Am I right, Justin?
Yeah.
It's not the movie's fault. That person already had some deep-seated issues. Like they're at the point where the person, like, they're so close to the edge. They're at the point where the barista getting their getting the barista at Starbucks getting their order wrong is going to push them over the edge. They're at the point where the receptionist at the doctor's office is getting their name incorrect, is going to push them over the edge.
They're at the point where finding out that McDonald's stopped serving breakfast will push them over the edge.
Exactly. Like, these people are so close to the edge already. So I think when violent incidents like this happen, I think we need to stop pointing the blame, and I think we need to get stuff done. I think we need, like, how are we going to stop these things again? How are we going to stop shootings again? So I don't think it's right to blame media. I don't think it's right to blame films. Like, I get it that it's right after something like Columbine. Okay, we think it's inappropriate to be showing these. We think it's inappropriate to the people who died and to their families. Like, that I can understand.
Yeah.
But I think we got to stop pointing the finger of blame and actually get things done so we can prevent things like this happening. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Okay, guys, anything else?
I am good.
I am good. I yield.
He yields. Anything else, guys? Oh, you guys are good?
Yeah, I think we're good.
We want to thank you all for watching, listening, however you enjoyed us tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in for such a very well-educated and thought-out topic for tonight's show. Here on the Super Review Show's podcast. I want to thank the two gentlemen, as always, Bill and Justin, for stepping up, because I had a hard time with this topic, for stepping up and being a part of this discussion and basically leading the charge on this one. I appreciate you both deeply.
Hey, no problem.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
That's what
Bill,
we're here for.
You have a sports something.
Check out the Sports Insanity podcast on the Sports Insanity Network. Check us out. We're on all platforms.
Yes, and you can find Justin simply on the Super Review Show's reviews coming soon. We have a bunch of out of theater reactions coming soon for movies coming up. Please look for those on our YouTube channel soon. But for all of us here at the Super Review Show, stay safe, take care, and